Your mind is a beautiful thing, but if left unattended, it can get ugly real quick. If you're not constantly curating the content your mind consumes on a daily basis, then your surroundings will dictate your daily thoughts, habits, behaviors, and actions. This show has only one goal: to leave your mind more beautiful than it was when you arrived. Welcome to the Beautiful Mind Show. Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Jason Everett. Welcome to the Beautiful Mind Show. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about some of the hard lessons that we get taught in our life. And I know there's a lot of people that think sometimes life happens to you and you have no control over it whatsoever. But I think it's not necessarily about do you control it, who controls it, what controls it. But the question you want to ask yourself is you want to say, what can I do with what's been placed in front of me? And on today's show, I've got a good friend of mine, a client, guest, and we've worked together and known each other for a lot of years. And she's been through some amazing highs, some amazing lows, and has done some great things with what she has created within her life. So please welcome to the show, Lindsey Haney. What's going on, Lindsey? How are you?
Hi, Jason.
It's so good to have you on, Lindsey. Super pumped to have you here. And you not only have been a client and friend for however long it's been. It's been like 10 years? Has it been that long? We're getting close, right?
Yeah, I think it's getting close to a decade.
Been a hot minute of hanging out with Lindsey Haney. Now you're part of our High Performance Salon Academy. You're now one of the mentors inside our High Performance Salon Academy. But you've been through some things that I think most people haven't experienced. And I think you've done some incredible things with it. You always have a bright, sunny disposition, at least when I see you. And I know it's not always sunshine and rainbows in your day-to-day, but you've experienced a lot. And I think this last year, you've kind of been through this transitional period where you've kind of like come out and reemerged as this like amazing phoenix to come through some ashes of things in your life. But that's been a theme and part of your life for a long time, yeah?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Reflecting back just on this year, it makes me think back even further and kind of what in life has set me up to this point.
Right.
You know, all those experiences that have set me up to this point in my life.
Yeah, and I think, everybody can relate. And by the way, if you can relate to having a hard year, do me a favor and say relate in the chat, right, as we're talking about this, because I want to know. And because all of us, for this last year, we all went through something that we weren't expected, was completely hit us out of left field and we weren't ready for. And Lindsey, I really appreciate you being willing to talk about something that happened to you in your life, because you have two beautiful children that are amazing. How old are your kids right now, by the way? I feel like they're going to get older than older every time I hear.
Yeah, so my daughter Kylie is 23, and my son,
Oh, dang.
yes, and my son Owen is 16, and he's like a foot and a half taller than I am.
That's amazing. So Kylie and Owen are amazing children. And so as a mom, and again, I know this is probably hard to talk about a little bit, but I know you do a great job of talking about this because you help people with this story all the time. Tell me about how your first daughter came into the world and kind of what did that set up for you as far as hard lessons that you needed in your life? So start with the story, and then we'll talk about how is 23 years later that been?
Right. So about a month after I graduated high school, I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter, which was very, very unexpected, obviously. And when Kylie was born, she was not breathing. So she went a significant amount of time without oxygen. And that can compromise the brain. Basically, Kylie would have been born normal if I would have had an emergency C-section. Unfortunately, that didn't take place. And so she went a significant amount of time without oxygen to her brain. And so at about a year and a half, we got the diagnosis after she hadn't met several milestones, and that she had cerebral palsy. That was finally the word that they put to it after she hadn't met those milestones. But I knew at about 3 months that, there was something wrong. She was her tone was very spastic. Her muscle tone was very spastic. She was very colicky. I just knew that mom instinct. I knew in my heart that something wasn't right, even
Right.
at a young age, an unexperienced young age. I knew that
Moms
something
know.
wasn't right.
Totally. And so, okay, so here you are, right out of high school, end up pregnant, and then have this situation. Again, it's just relating to you. You know, with both my kids, we had to have two emergency C sections. That were, and again, emergency C sections, it's a make or break. Like it is that life threatening moment of like what happens. And so, for you to have a daughter now who is 3 months old, diagnosed with cerebral palsy, and going through a very different life trajectory of an unexpected challenge for you, um, that's a hard lesson, right? And for a lot of you guys that are paying attention, maybe you've been in this situation that Lindsey has. I don't know. Maybe you haven't, but maybe you can at least relate. And Lindsey, so as a new mom, as a young mom, surprise mom, right, trying to figure out what to do, I'm sure there were some things. There were probably some moments that were not awesome, and there were some moments that were better. What were some things that you did to get through that? How did you get through? I mean, now you have this beautiful 23-year-old daughter who's awesome and a fireball and tons of personality, right? But like, what do you think those are? What do you think that was in your life to teach you? If that's a way to ask that.
Yeah. Well, I definitely took on a mindset
Mm-hmm.
at a very young age. I, I don't think I realized it at the time that I wanted to be a survivor and not a
Mm,
victim, but I think I took on the mindset that I needed to prove everybody wrong because I was so young. I wasn't supposed to be the girl that got pregnant out of high school, but I wanted to prove everybody wrong. And because, she had a medical condition, I was taking her to the Mayo Clinic as an 18-year-old girl
mm,
by myself.
yeah.
At first, I would bring my mom with me just for support, but I found that the doctors and nurses were making eye contact with her and speaking to her.
And not really letting you be the mom, basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm,
So I stopped taking her with me, and I just took it on myself. And it was just that motivation of like you just do it. I didn't know anything different. I just took it every day at a time, every appointment at a time, and um, I had a good a mindset of you know we're gonna keep moving. It's it's I didn't want anyone to feel sorry for me either at the
yeah.
same time.
Yeah, you said, I mean, because again, that idea of being there's some words that you said. You said survivor, right? And you said I want to prove people wrong. And I think sometimes people get caught up in this idea. You haven't said this word. I just want to say this word for other people who might be thinking it, is that often people kind of get caught up in this victim mentality, right? Of like, well, this happened. Um, for you, Lindsey, what would you say were some of the top lessons for you as you raised Kylie, who again is now awesome and 23? Like, what are some of the highlights for you of that journey that you got to experience life differently than most typical people, but it's been amazing for you?
Well, what's unique about Kylie is she is nonverbal, um, and she is severely physically handicapped. So she is tube fed. She is not able to sit up on her own. She is non-ambulatory, so she is completely dependent on me. What's unique is she cognitively is very intelligent. So
Mm-hmm.
she's stuck in this body that just doesn't work for her. She doesn't know anything different. But I learned at a really, really young age how strong my my instinct is as a mom. I had to learn some lessons along the way where my instinct was screaming at me and I didn't listen to it, and then I learned afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I learned at a really, really young age, like the amazing support system that I have, that the people that surround me, the people that are there to build me up and not, and maybe not validate how I might be feeling when I'm not feeling great. Um, I definitely at a very young age found gratitude for that type of support. the people that build me up and the people that surround me and the people that are there to encourage me. Yeah, I'm so grateful for that. I'm super
Yeah.
fortunate.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so as you've been through other things, I mean, life for you obviously just got perfect after that and then had no other issues. And that was pretty much it, right? Like that was the one lesson you got to have. And then you went on your merry way and now you're amazing. So cool. End of podcast. Uh, right. I mean, look, we've all been through hard things and I don't even know what it would be like to have my son, either of my sons be in the position that you've been in. But you said kind of fast forward to this year, right? So you've been through all kinds of other ups and downs in life and in love and in world and in everything else that you've been in, Lindsey, since I've known you for the last 10 years of that, right? What did this last year teach you? Because, being in isolation and being in some levels of quarantine and all those things, what are some lessons that the universe, God, however you choose to look at it, like what would you say have been some lessons that have been thrown your way that you've really had to examine on your own?
I think we all learned a lot of lessons this year. But I was put into, another survival, survival mode, like most of us. And I learned to really, I would say, I was very self-aware this year of um, my mental health and being responsible for it and
Like
my
like not letting
responsibility.
somebody else tell you about it, or what do you mean by like how do you mean responsible for your mental health?
Well, you know what? I think one of the things that helps me realize that, Jason, was the energy assessment that you had us do during one of our morning calls.
Hmm.
And it really made me realize the things that could have been affecting, my stress and anxiety.
Yeah.
Um, I started working out this year for the first time, not for my body, but for my mind.
Mm.
Um, my spirit, just, knowing that I needed a strong mind. I needed to stay healthy for, not only my family, but, my team and myself. And I had a lot of different personal challenges going on in my life this year. It was like the universe brought everything, um, all aspects of my life to a head this year as a challenge.
Just because you needed more things to have as a challenge, right? And I think people can relate, right? It's like when it rains, it pours. You get all the lessons all at once. And so, how did you come out of that? What kind of things brought you out? Because I think you've shared with me some really cool things about who you've been introspectively looking at, who really Lindsey Haney is, who's come out of that for you.
Right. So I realized that I created an identity
Yeah.
this year. And it kind of started out as a joke, but as I've reflected back on my life, she's kind of always been there. And she definitely came out at our high octane adventure when I was just
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
shooting guns and driving tanks. But
We
her
do
name
that to people.
is her name is Lindsey F. Yeah Haney, and I used to make a joke that I threw f bombs out quite often, but in the most loving way. I would
Yeah.
say there's a difference between an fu person and an f yeah person, and
Well said.
I'm definitely an f yeah kind of person.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a great way to say
but
that.
yeah, she came out in like GI Jane force this year, and that was like the identity that I was this year to get through things. And I appreciate that. And I think she's always been there, kind of going back to when I was younger and, starting out with Kylie with that, like, F yeah, I'm going to prove everybody wrong. And she just kind of amplified to this extreme GI Jane type of identity to get me through this year. That's for sure.
Yeah, and we shout out to Todd Herman who wrote the book Alter Ego, right? Because he came out and did a training with us. We talked about alter egos, and I remember that was part of the discussion, right? Around like what is that persona? And that persona has kind of been in you that whole time. Is like you literally had to create this person or realize who that person was that was inside of you that gets busted out and starts becoming that. What does Lindsey F. Yeah Haney believe that regular Lindsey Haney doesn't? If is that a question I can ask?
Yeah, I think Lindsay F.I. Haney like picks me up in those moments where anxiety can paralyze me.
Mm,
Um, she puts me with this group of people that build me up, give me strength, give me perspective.
hmm
Um, Instead of, maybe a group of people that might validate me feeling crappy and anxious, and, the people that can inspire me. And
Yeah.
she definitely is, she takes action.
Yeah, the action I remember Lindsey F. Yeah Haney taking was we were racing around pro racetrack in some 1,200 horsepower razors, and the Lindsey F. Yeah Haney I know jumped a razor like 35 feet, going a bajillion miles an hour. Got slightly sideways in a turn and rolled her razor. That's the Lindsey F. Yeah Haney I remember. And as everybody's freaking out and running towards you guys, I was doing a live broadcast at that exact second. I'm like, look at this, Lindsey. Jumps off the thing. All of a sudden, everybody starts running towards your razor, freaking out, thinking that we've all just we've eliminated people from the academy, not the way that we'd like to. And as we get closer to the vehicle, all I remember is you, and I think it was Amy Roslin, right?
Yes.
Amy Roslin cackling and laughing the hardest I've ever heard two people laugh in my entire life. And I remember you guys getting out, coming out of the top, and you guys were hysterical with laughter, with joy, with bliss, and everybody else was in pure concern for you. What would you say that moment was like for you, realizing when you push and you accelerate and you do all those things? What was that like for you to come out and, and still survive again yet another time? What was that like for you?
Well, that moment was like pure gold
Yeah.
because, like I had no fear that whole weekend. And so like she was, and that was it. There was just no fear. There
Love
was
it.
no fear. I was with my favorite people, and had a shit ton, let's just say, of personal development right
just a
before.
little. Yeah. Yeah.
Right before. And that also amplified
Yeah.
the Lindsay F. Yeah Haney identity. Is I had this opportunity to do a whole bunch of ridiculous amount of personal development in the last 6 months. But yeah, the feeling of no fear, to 100th degree. And um, yeah, and just having that feeling of like survived and celebrating in success. And I think in some of my darkest moments is when some of my darkest humor comes out, and
Mm.
that's how I cope too.
Yeah.
So
I love it. And I was thinking back because I had forgotten until we just mentioned it right now, but I forgot the day before when we were driving tanks and you crushed cars, and then you won the like sharpshooter contest inside when we were shooting the rifles. And then you got to shoot. You were the only person who got to shoot the 50 cal, blow your hair back. And it was just intense. And I remember seeing your face that whole weekend. It was like you won one thing and then won another thing and then rolled the car, and they loved that. And I was like, wow, Lindsey is a totally different person. And I think to go through the trials that you went through and have that type of experience, I think is amazing. What piece of advice, Lindsey, would you give somebody that's in that moment of struggle, that's in that moment of like, I don't really know. I think life is holding me down and not letting me breathe. What would Lindsey F. Yeah Haney or Lindsey Haney, what would you say to somebody like that about what they're going through and where they can be?
I would say recognize in yourself the things that you can take responsibility for right now. There's moments where I was at my lowest. My anxiety was super high at the beginning of the quarantine and the shutdown and my business being shut down. And I realized like, oh, I've been drinking every night on Zoom
Mm-hmm.
with friends, and my anxiety is really high. Obviously drinking every night is not good.
Yeah.
Everyone knows the things that we need to do to take care of ourselves, and whatever you can do to really take care of your mind and your spirit, I feel like it just automatically starts affecting your body.
Yeah.
That's that's the lesson that I've really learned this year, was that it was the first time I stopped looking at myself as a body and more of a mind and spirit, and took responsibility for what that the health of that and what that meant, and developing that and exercising for that and
Yeah.
de-stressing for that, you know. That was my biggest lesson this year, was like what I could control, what I could be responsible for myself, that, you know, I could take action on
Mm-hmm.
right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's it, right? Is when, to your point of just not just being a body, not just being a mind, but being a mind, a body, and a spirit, and those things are important. You dropped a little seed out early in this call, Lindsey, that you said, I started exercising for my mind, not for my body. That actually really hit me, right? Is like I'm not doing this so I can have a body in a certain way. I'm doing it so my mind is sharp, right? I'm doing it so my spirit feels full. I'm doing it so that, you know, you're just in this totally different spot. And the whole idea of this Beautiful Mind show, since we just created this, is still early, right? The whole idea of this was to give people access to what things they can do to start conditioning their mind and conditioning their soul, more than just conditioning their body. But it's all of those things, right? Mind, body, and soul, and helping people become aware of those. And shameless plug, because we're here. If you guys want to do, we have a 7-day challenge, totally free, that you can do. It's called the 7-Day Beautiful Minds Challenge. And again, like you mentioned about drinking is literally poison for your body that you put into it. And again, you can decide how often or not you want to do something like that. But the challenge becomes, right, how often do you want to create that sort of opportunity? How often do you want to be in a position that your body will fight you back because you're poisoning it, right? And so in one of the challenges, the Beautiful Minds 7-Day challenge is stop drinking for 7 days and see what happens, see what clears up in your mind. And so I would just say, if you guys want to take that on, if you want to check it out, do me a favor and comment 7-day or comment with challenge in the comments below, and we'll send you the information for it so you can figure out how to restore your life, put you in a mode that will work. And if you feel like you've been in survival mode, which I know a lot of people have, I hope listening to Lindsey today has been extremely grounding and been extremely powerful, because Lindsey, every time I hear your story, I just am more inspired to do more, be more, and continue to keep going. So I'm just super grateful for you. Love having you on our team, because I think you bring, like I said, there's 2 versions of Lindsey Haney. I wanted both to show up today, right? The Lindsey F. Yeah Haney, and there's one other version of Lindsey Haney I want to leave you with, which is the heart-to-heart Lindsey Haney, because I really do believe that is your gift, is to be able to just speak to people and connect to their heart instantly. And I would say, you know, for me, as an outsider looking at one of the many things that I'm sure Kylie has taught you, is the ability to communicate heart to heart. You know, like I've seen you do that with her over and over again, and it's beautiful to watch, is that you don't have the ability to communicate through words. You have to do it all non-verbally, and I think that's what makes you an incredible listener to other people. You perceive people very differently, and I love having you on our crew. So thanks for being here today, and thanks for being a part of the Beautiful Mind Show.
Oh, my pleasure, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Of
I'm super
course.
grateful to even be asked.
Of
So thank
course.
you.
Of course. Love having you on. Thank you so much, Lindsey Haney. And if you want to get access to more tools like this, do me a favor and just subscribe to the show. Find it on your favorite podcast channel. Check us out on any of our channels that our podcast exists, and give us a rating so we can get more shows out like this. And if you love Lindsey, do me a favor and say love in the chat so Lindsey knows. And I just really appreciate you. So have a great rest of your day. Enjoy, guys. And thank you so much for being on the Beautiful Mind Show.